Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special installment of the Deep-3 here with Scott Reichel and winnersandwhiners.com. Before we get into the plays of the day, I will address the elephant in the room. Where is Scott Steehn? And the answer to that is that he is actually unavailable for this weekend as he will be traveling to his son's graduation. So congratulations to him and his son on his son completing college. And that means that you have me instead. You might have recognized me from about 2 weeks ago, where I filled in for Scott Sr., as I like to call him, and we ended up going 2-0 in those 2 days. But the show must go on, and for that reason, we will be continuing the Deep-3 in his absence. Just to be clear, I did get permission from Scott Steehn to use that title, so don't accuse me of potentially stealing that, as Scott and I are good friends. So with that being said, we would like to dive in to the 3 plays. But before we do that, just a quick reminder about the sponsor that we have with PointsBet, as they are the sportsbook in New Jersey. Up and coming, definitely all over YouTube and Twitterverse, as they've been getting a lot of positive recognition, rightfully so. And as Scott Steehn has told you in recent videos, they do have a couple of great deals that I would like to share with you quickly. So PointsBet, you get up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you bet $800, for example, on the Trailblazers money line last night, and you wanted to get a huge return out of it, even though the Trailblazers choked, you get your money back. So it's risk-free. That's one of the perks of it. And if you also win, you get to keep the money. So you get up to 2 of those for $1,000 each. That's something to keep in mind. They also have some great deals on playoff games, where if the team that you bet on, if you had a money line bet on a team and they were winning after 3 quarters, you win. So you don't even have to wait out the 4th quarter, potentially sweat it out. You can just cash all of your money, and you don't have to sweat it out in the 4th quarter trying to see if the Trailblazers will choke a lead to the Warriors or not. So that's something to also keep in mind. There's also an NHL playoff deal where if the team you bet on leads by 2 goals, you win. So if your team goes up 2-0 3 minutes into the game, you win. You don't have to bother sitting around for the next 57 minutes trying to hope that your team clings to a lead. But with that being said, those are the announcements that I have for the sponsors. I will be posting a link in the description below, as well as some promo codes if you are potentially interested in joining PointsBet from the New Jersey area. But with that being said, it is time to dive into the plays of the day. And we will start out here with a couple of baseball plays. First play is on the Los Angeles Dodgers money line, which is available at roughly -130 on Pinnacle. Dodgers will be using Reichel, who's 0-1 with a 4.2 ERA, while the Reds will be using Anthony Desclafani, who is 2-1 with a 4.17 ERA. However, Dodgers are arguably the best team in baseball. They also are coming into this game off of a day off, so they have been able to travel early. Weather should be very nice. How's it going, Peter? Thanks for joining us. Welcome back, everyone. Moving on quickly with the play. Reichel so far, even though he's 0-1 with a 4.2 ERA, has actually been pretty solid this season, as the Dodgers have, in fact, won the majority of his starts. They've won 2 out of 3 to be exact, and he has not given up more than 3 earned runs in a start this season. Meanwhile, Dodgers as a whole are one of the best teams in the National League and should be the favorites to represent the National League again in the World Series, as they are 29-16 as they traveled Cincinnati to take on a 20-24 Cincinnati Reds team. Reds are coming off of a win in their last game, but that was with Luis Castillo on the mound, who, as everyone knows, is their ace. And Desclafani has not been as amazing this season, as he's 2-1 with a 4.17 ERA. Just some quick stats before some trends. Cincinnati is the 14th highest on base percentage versus lefties in the league. So they're an average hitting team against lefties, give or take. And the Dodgers have the 6th highest on base percentage versus righties this season. Dodgers, great offense, great bullpen, very solid starting pitching. Reichel is definitely a veteran. He has been there, done that before, so we expect him to come out focused in this game and to perform well. It's also worth mentioning that I think at -130 for the Dodgers, you are getting good value on the overnight lines, especially as money has already started to come in on the Dodgers or in the early hours of the morning. Dodgers open up at -130. They are still -130 on 5 dimes, but they have been bet up to -134, -135 in most spots, and I would expect that closing line to end up at roughly -140 or -150. So I think there is value on the Dodgers, but we'll go into some quick trends. The Dodgers are actually 6-0 in Reichel's last 6 starts following a team loss in the previous game. Dodgers are also 5-0 in Rich Hill's last 5 road starts, so he has been very solid on the road. Dodgers have also dominated the Reds head-to-head, as they are 21-8 in their last 29 meetings against Cincinnati. Meanwhile, the Reds are 0-4 in DeSclafani's last 4 starts against the Dodgers. Dodgers have hit him very well historically, and the Reds are 1-4 in their last 5 games versus a left-handed starter. So for that reason, we believe that there is a solid amount of value on the Dodgers at minus 130, as this line will most likely climb to minus 140 or even higher right before first pitch. So I would recommend taking that now for some value. Moving on, we have another baseball game as our second play between the Oakland A's as they travel to Detroit to take on the Detroit Tigers. First game of the series was, well, lopsided was to put it mild, was to put it delicately. Oakland won 17-3. So just to go into who will be pitching in this game, A's will be using Frankie Montas, who is 4-2 with a 2.78 ERA. The Tigers will be using Daniel Norris, pretty decent this season, 2-1 with a 3.63 ERA. But the Tigers have definitely struggled lately, and the Tigers have actually lost each of their last 4 games by at least 4 runs. So they've been getting blown out early and often. Some of that wasn't their fault because they ended up having to deal with the red-hot Houston Astros coming into town for a 3-game series. But, Houston leaves, and you have a chance to potentially bounce back, and you lose by 14 runs to a team that got swept by the Mariners over the week. So you got to question where Detroit's morale is at, and it's probably pretty low. Money has poured in on Oakland. They started at roughly a minus 130-something money line. They're now up to roughly minus 150 here, minus 157, pretty much market-wide. However, Pinnacle is offering a minus 1.5 line on the A's at plus 104, and I think there is definitely a lot of value on that one. So for me, I would lean to the Oakland A's minus 1.5, but I will go into some stats and some trends as well. Oakland has actually been very good against lefties this season, as they have the 8th highest on-base percentage against lefties in the entire league, where Detroit is tied for the 4th lowest on-base percentage versus righties this season. Detroit simply can't hit. They can't pitch. They've been getting blown out by at least 4 runs pretty much this entire week, and I don't see how Oakland will not cover this minus 1.5. I would also take this now. The fact that it's available at plus 104 on Pinnacle looks like a gift, as this should end up somewhere in the minus 105 range to minus 110. There's already minus 105 in some spots, but Pinnacle has a great overnight line, which I will be recommending for that one. Moving on to trends, Oakland has also dominated Detroit in recent seasons. Oakland is a fun fact here. Oakland is 8-0 in the last 8 meetings in Detroit. So yeah, Detroit hasn't won a game against Oakland at home in their last 8 tries. Also to mention, Oakland is 40-12 in their last 52 games against the AL Central. I don't know why, but the Athletics absolutely destroy this division. And Oakland is 20-7 in their last 27 meetings against the Tigers. Meanwhile, the Tigers are 1-8 in Norris's last 8 home starts versus a team with a losing record. And the Tigers are 0-4 in Norris's last 4 starts versus the American League West. So simply put, Tigers are terrible. I know that Miguel Cabrera is a future Hall of Famer, but he looks like his past is prime. Castellanos has not been great this season. Goodrum's been okay, but for the most part, nobody else on that team can actually score. And Oakland's offense just scored 17 runs yesterday. I expect them to come out swinging, and I expect Detroit to struggle again, and they will lose by multiple runs. It's also worth mentioning Detroit has an awful bullpen, and even if Norris is able to perform decently for 5 or 6 innings, I do not trust this Tigers bullpen to maintain that quality performance. I think Oakland will score at least 5 or 6 runs in this game, and I personally think that at plus 104, that is a pretty much of a gift in terms of value. So I would lean to that as well. Quick comments. Sierra wants to know if I have a horse pick. I know the Preakness is coming up this weekend. It's actually kind of funny that you mentioned that because of the fact that this video is coming out at 2 a.m. Eastern time, and you might be wondering why. The reason is because I'm actually traveling to Maryland this weekend. Am I going to the Preakness? No. However, I will actually be in the area, so if I pick up any potential juicy information about that, then I will share it with you. Improbable, I had money on beating, I believe it was I forgot the name of the other horse, but I ended up losing a matchup prop on that by about 1 millimeter. And I don't trust Improbable just because I'm biased. So that's just my personal thought on that one. But yeah, Paul, I appreciate that. I hope you ended up looking at the tennis video I had earlier today. But either or, Preakness, for me, I don't really have any thoughts on that. I'll probably put a sprinkle on a potential long shot just because of the fact that most of the main horses in the Kentucky Derby are not running, and there's a potential lawsuit going on between the owners of Maximum Security, and I'm curious how that's going to work out. But I don't want this video to get too long, and I will be continuing with the third selection. Third selection is a pure value play, as I simply think this line is too high. I like the Sharks on the money line at plus 128 at Bet Online. Main reason here, if you're the Blues, let me ask you a question. If you're on the Blues and you're up 4-3 in the last minute of regulation with a chance to potentially take a 2-1 series lead, and you blow it with about 58 seconds off, give up a goal to Logan Couture, that's fine, right? You're still going to overtime, you're still at home, it's all good. Then you end up getting screwed over by a hand pass in overtime that leads to a goal. It's a clear hand pass, but yet the referees can't review it and you lose. So the way that I see it is, if you're in that locker room, how are you supposed to respond to that? There's two ways. Either A, you rise up and you end up using it as a rallying cry and you try to potentially get back into the series, or B, you fold. Or and you think that this is just simply not in the cards and you start questioning on whether or not this – it's kind of look at the Sharks are a team of destiny, honestly. After going down 3-1 to Vegas, then you get the 5-minute major in Game 7, score 3 power play goals, or I believe 4, I don't even remember at this point. But you have that, ended up winning Game 7 against the Avalanche due to a questionable offsides penalty. And for me, I personally think the Sharks should be a lot – they should not be a plus 128 underdog here. They should be somewhere around the realm of plus 105, potentially even at, and I don't see how plus 128 makes any sense. I know people have been roasting Martin Jones so far this series, as he has been okay, to say the least. But overall, I don't think Bennington's been much better for the Blues, and I simply think that at plus 128, there's a tremendous amount of value on the Sharks here, and I personally think the Blues will fold. I think that home ice doesn't mean as much as people think it does. And I think that when you think the refs are conspiring against you, I think you have certain distractions that you should not be focused on moving into Game 4. I think the Sharks are the better team. I think they're the deeper team. I've been saying this for a while. I think the Blues and the Sharks will end up meeting up in the Stanley Cup. And I think that the Sharks will be able to take a commanding 3-1 series lead here. So I will personally be taking the San Jose Sharks at plus 128, which is available on Bet Online. I would also recommend taking this sooner rather than later, as money has started to come in on the Sharks early, as the Blues opened up at roughly a minus 135 favorite, I believe. They opened up a minus 143, actually, down to minus 137 or minus 140 in most spots. So small amount of money coming in on San Jose, but that is something to keep in mind. Yeah, Peter, I get the point. I know that people follow the zigzag theory, especially in hockey and basketball. And if you don't know what the zigzag theory is, it's a theory of whatever team loses straight up in hockey or fails to cover the spread in the previous playoff game, you bet on them in the following game, and it tends to be profitable. For example, the Trailblazers, they did not cover in Game 1, and they were able to cover in Game 2 and to almost to win the game outright. Same thing with Milwaukee. You can argue that Toronto should be able to cover the spread coming into Game 2 based on the zigzag theory. I personally think Milwaukee will cover. I really just think that Giannis had an off game. I know that Lopez took off, but so did Kyle Lowry, who's been a perennial choker in his entire career. And the issue I have with the Raptors, just a transition. So you know that my third play will be on the Sharks. But in terms of basketball, since somebody asked, I will answer that. I think that the Bucks should be able to cover, and I like the game going over. I think Toronto did a great job early on trying to stop Giannis, but Brook Lopez ended up going off for 29 points. Of course, that's an anomaly, but Kyle Lowry and Kawhi were the only two people to actually show up in Game 1 for the Raptors, and Kawhi had 2 points in the fourth quarter, and Kyle Lowry had arguably the greatest game of his playoff career, and the team lost. I expect Lowry to struggle more. I expect Leonard to continue playing well. Siakam shot about 6 for 20. Danny Green was useless. Marc Gasol didn't really do anything, and I simply just don't think that Toronto has the firepower to stay with Milwaukee, especially with Malcolm Brogdon coming back, who I personally thought was tremendous in Game 1. And as I mentioned in my bracket video before the playoff started, I said that I thought Milwaukee would be able to beat Toronto if Brogdon is back, and Brogdon has definitely looked the part, as the defending Rookie of the Year has looked like not defending Rookie of the Year, the Rookie of the Year from 2 years ago, I should say, has looked tremendous so far after joining the Bucks again following some injuries. So for me, Toronto, props to them for getting this far. and I'm still not sure if they're going to get Kawhi Leonard. But besides Kawhi and Kyle Lowry in Game 1, nobody showed up. And in terms of the team's performances in recent games, including Game 7, Kawhi Leonard was the only person who was actually willing to take shots when it mattered. And I think Milwaukee will come out and punch him in the mouth. Toronto played a great Game 1. They still didn't cover. So I got to wonder how they're going to be able to cover this one, and I don't think that will be happening. But other than that, if you want the rest of my leans on the card, I will actually be doing a video with statsalt.com and their YouTube page immediately after this. So I personally will be covering all of the games in whether it's baseball or basketball or anything like that, and I will be giving the rest of my thoughts on there. But your 3 plays for the Deep 3 will be on the Los Angeles Dodgers minus 130 at Pinnacle, the Oakland A's plus 104 at minus 1.5 runs on Pinnacle, and the Sharks money line at plus 128 on Bet Online. If you're wondering why they're in that specific order, the answer is there is no reason why. I like all the plays equally. So if you are wondering why I put them in that order, it was just the order of what I found. So whatever game I liked first, I put that first, etc. Also, sorry if this video has gone relatively long. I know people have had issues with that in the past when I was filling in for Scott Steehn. But I want it to be thorough, and I hope that all of you enjoyed this breakdown here on the special edition of Deep 3 at winnersandwhiners.com. And once again, good congratulations to Scott Steehn and his son on his graduation from college. But you will be stuck with me for the next 3 days, whether or not you like it or not. So with that being said, have a good night, everybody, and I will be uploading the rest of the leans on the StatSalt page in the next couple of minutes. Bye, everyone.